I'd say it's common practice for character artists to turn things into designs. And I'm not just talking animals. I mean things. Writing utensils, foods, household objects, and my most latest discovery, traffic. In fact, it was this particular drawing that inspired this entire video. And it wasn't the theme or how well it was drawn, it was these things. These look exactly like PlayStation buttons. And so I asked myself, what if I turned the PlayStation into my own character? And, well, that's exactly what I did. I've always wanted to make quote-unquote things into characters, but I could never come up with a good enough theme in the past. Since this will be my first try since I was little, I'll keep things simple. I'll use the traffic mage as a base, and I'll just add my own ideas to it to make my own character. I'll use the pose, I'll use the weapons, and of course I'll use the shapes. And thumbnailing ideas out can take a long time. For me personally, 2 hours later, this is what I ended up with. It's not perfect, and of course I'm going to change things later on, but it's a good enough start. Now I can move on to the research. PS5 looks like a binder. The PS5 looks like an alien spaceship. The PS5 looks like an hourglass. Oh boy. It's certainly the tallest out of the PlayStations, and it's the first one to debut with white as a main color and black as the accent. And it has a collar. The main features I took from it were futuristic, tall, white plates, black base, and coupled with the magic theme from Traffic Mage, I came up with my base concept. A wizard, but a more modern one. Not Hollywood modern. Think streetwear, essentially, but slightly in the future. In fact, streetwear is one of the topics I use as a reference, as well as other art on Pinterest that I liked and felt would help me in the design process. Having work from skilled artists on hand also just helps you draw better. When it comes to making characters, I always first start off with the facial features. It's the first thing everyone assesses when they see a person. Of course, it's not necessary to have facial features in character design, but it was my decision to make the character a human, so yeah. I also did a few quick passes on his possible clothes, but I mainly stuck with his face for now. I didn't know how long I'd be drawing this character, but I wanted to get used to him, so I did a little character study sheet. I drew him with different expressions and different angles. That definitely helped exploring the waves on his head. Part of the inspiration for that was from the PS5's reveal trailer. Also, I can't really draw hair, so I might as well make a buzz cut look interesting. Personally, I took the PS5's design quite literally, and I knew I wanted the character to be black with white everything else. His hair, his clothes, even his eyelashes would be the same color. As for the end result, I think it looks pretty good. On to his clothes. Side note, I came up with a couple names for him, and while I decided to go with V, I am open to hearing if the other names fit him better. I always kept his clothes in mind while I was working on the character sheet, and if you've noticed, in near every drawing I put a big hoodie on him that wraps around his neck. That's because I'm taking direct inspiration from the PS5's white collar plates. Plus, this keeps the initial modern sorcerer theme in mind throughout. Mages and sorcerers usually have hooded robes, so a modern character like V should have a modern day equivalent. Besides those details though, while I wouldn't say it was really difficult, coming up with his clothes wasn't as straightforward as coming up with his face. In fact, before I knew it, I ended up with a wardrobe of over 20 different outfits. Searching streetwear on Pinterest turns up a lot of interesting stuff. And every time I thought I had something I liked, I thought, but what if he had this, or this, or this? But eventually I narrowed it down to the clothes that resemble a mage the most, the long hoodie and the low-cut baggy pants. Sorcerers also sometimes wear those big puffy lower garments, especially those in Asian media, so I gave V a modern equivalent. Don't know the official name for them though. With all that in mind, and I will be tweaking some stuff along the way, I finally feel comfortable enough to get down to the main illustration. So I won't talk too much here because I feel like the video will speak for itself. But I will say I had a hard time creating the weapons. I was going to have 4 of them, 1 for each PlayStation button, but the whole thing ended up being pretty clunky. Plus I predicted a lot of tangents popping up in the future. So I ended up scrapping half and leaving only 2. Eventually I had the bright idea to turn those from regular staffs into elongated joysticks. But besides that little hiccup, since I already made his face and I already made his clothes, putting together the final drawing was pretty simple. And here it is, the final result. It took a while because I was making a new character from the ground up, but it ended up being a lot better than I thought it would for my first try. So I guess I can put this project behind me now and move on to a next one. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you in the next video. Bye. Is what I would say if I actually liked this. I don't. Now, this is going to be the part where I list all my gripes with this drawing, but after listening to the recording again, even I can tell that I was being too hard on myself. Also, it was getting pretty long-winded, so scrapping that. That being said, this character just looks like a guy in all-white clothes, and for some reason, the PlayStation buttons are around him. Also, I was going for a magic-type character, yet I didn't include any magic. I didn't depict any powers at all. So I know I have to fix that somehow. And what I did was go back to my console and give it a once-over just one more time. And I realized I didn't actually look at the controller along with the console. And that might not seem like a big deal, but it made me realize I made one pretty big faux pas. Square, triangle, circle, X. Since the beginning, the PlayStation has always been linked to these 4 shapes. But not only that, these shapes have also been linked to these 4 colors on every DualShock controller. It wasn't until I looked back at the PS5's ugly-ass controller that I remembered those colors are no longer present, so having them in the drawing makes no sense at all. And since we're on the topic of color schemes, here's another design choice that I fumbled on.
Mr. Krabs' wallet!
Anyway, time to make some adjustments. Like this. But I'll get back to that later. For now, I want to focus on his powers. So I'm gonna be honest. Before anything else, these powers were the first thing I thought about. And if you haven't noticed, I've played Sony consoles for a long time. And for all my most memorable games, they all had a similar control pattern. Square was a light attack, triangle was a heavy attack, X was to jump, and circle was to dodge. Sometimes X and circle would switch places, and sometimes X and circle were miscellaneous, but that was the general pattern. And that's how I planned out V's powers. All 4 staffs with all 4 classic colors. But then I realized a problem, besides the classic color schemes. Every game that I'm drawing inspiration from is a PlayStation 2 era game. And the obvious solution would be to draw inspiration from the PS5 games, but I only recently got a PS5, and as for the games I have, I don't have a big haul, so I will stick with my initial idea. But what I did do is modify it a little bit to pay more homage to the PS5. Here are his powers: projectiles with the X symbol, and enhanced agility with the circle. As for square and triangle, I've regulated them to being power scaling activators indicated by his gloves for quick or heavy attacks. If square is active, that means V can make mini projectiles and glide across the surface. If triangle is active, V can create 2 large saws that he can throw or fight with at close range, and he gains a burst of speed which he can only travel in one direction. Quick abilities are colored orange because orange is a warm color, and warm colors travel faster, and heavy abilities are colored blue for the exact opposite. I also flipped a coin. Okay, for the quick attack, heads is orange, tails is blue. Huh. And now, I have this cool little side-by-side drawing showcasing his quote-unquote magic powers. The whole joystick staff weapon things are gone because I was never really a big fan of them. And the more I thought about his powers, the cooler the idea of him fighting with giant saws instead of giant sticks became. Speaking of sticks, I really didn't feel like redrawing this, but if it's going to be paired with the new drawing, it does need a little editing. So I compromised a bit, and like last time, I will let the time-lapse speak for itself. Honestly, it looks pretty good. Since the new drawing depicting his powers visually omit the triangle and square, I felt it best to keep the shapes here in the old one. Now it definitely feels like a PS5 inspired character. Plus I have my own little twist on things to make it my own. I made a couple more drawings too. Their time lapses didn't make the cut, but I might make a separate video for all of the recordings on their own. The only thing really missing is a proper character sheet, but with how long this process took, I think I'm good off that for a while. I like how everything turned out. And with all this hard work done, I guess the only thing left to do now is edit this video. And as for the drawings, I don't know, maybe I can sell them, I guess? A few shirts and hoodies never hurt anyone, and I made some posters too, including the old drawing, because something tells me people might like this more than I do. I just hope Sony doesn't have a fit with me using their shapes in this. Sony doesn't own shapes. I also have merch for the comic I made last year during my participation in Inktober, and free and premium brushes that I made for Clip Studio Paint. You can find all of it on breedtoshop.com. Link in the description. I'll even include a coupon for orders $35 and up. No pressure in buying though. I just thought it'd be nice to have my own stuff in the physical world instead of just the digital one. And I really wanted this hoodie. I guess that's it now. For real this time. Like I said, this took a long time to make. Not even because of the drawing. I mean, I could do that in like a week or less. But it was really the learning curve was really the editing part. That took a while. As well as the voice editing. I live in a pretty noisy place, so if you hear a lot of background noise, I can't help you with that. I guess for my next video, so it won't take as long, I'll just redo an old one and just put my voice over it. I don't know yet. but I do hope you stick around for that. So hit the like button, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And until next time, thanks for watching. Bye.
You know who this motherfucker look like, low-key? Lord!